Please, can you do a deep dive on quotations wear and tear arthritis of the hip? Conventional doctors just don't, they just say wait for it to get bad enough and then have a hip replacement. There's no advice on diet, fasting, let's see, body muscle, gait, I think she says, gait
Yeah.
ratio, exercise, gut health. So just holistic,
Yeah.
health. There's not a lot there, she's asking.
For sure. Well, wear and tear osteoarthritis. So osteoarthritis basically is joint inflammation. And, by the time you get diagnosed with kind of a late stage osteoarthritis, the joint capsule itself, so the synovial joint, the disc in there, has really been worn down, and it can be incredibly painful for individuals that are dealing with this. And typically in the medical world, it's absolutely right. I mean, really, they're going to give you drugs along the way, NSAIDs, things like that to help reduce pain. And of course, that's the mainstream medicine. That's their approach to reducing inflammation. It's not really getting to the root cause. It's just basically a drug to kind of cover it up. And they're going to do that until it wears down, and then they're going to give you the hip replacement. So, from a functional perspective, when we think about osteoarthritis, there's a couple of things we definitely have to take into account. We have to take into account gait, and that means kind of how you're walking. Are you putting, too much stress on that area, or are you walking with a good balanced gait, putting, the right amount of stress? Are you doing high impact exercises on that region? And is that joint capsule already injured and damaged? And then, of course, if it's injured and damaged and you're putting a lot of stress on it, it can wear out faster. Kind of like, when we look at our car, we're going to rotate the tires. Well, in a sense, optimizing our gait and optimizing our pelvic floor and our pelvic structure is really important there too. So chiropractic care can really help. Chiropractors, some physical therapists. There's physical therapists out there that really specialize in gait. And, there could be issues related to your ankle, your knees, your hips, your pelvis, your lumbar spine, even your cervical spine, even forward head posture. We know if you're walking around, your ear is, jumping out way in front of your shoulder, that actually is going to put more stress on your lumbar spine, on your sacroiliac joint, on your hips, and it's going to cause problems. So looking at your posture, your holistic posture, and working with a specialist on that, whether it's physical therapist that's good with that or chiropractor that's good with it, can be super beneficial here. There could also be, there could have been like an injury at some point there and scar tissue built up that's restricting the motion, because all joints need good quality motion to get fluid and nutrition in there, into the discs, because the discs, the soft tissue around the joint, is avascular, meaning that there's not like a direct blood supply. So they depend on movement, which creates an osmotic change and helps pump nutrients into the region. So getting the proper motion in there. And if there's scar tissue because of a previous injury, that's going to restrict the motion or restrict the amount of nutrients getting in there. So a chiropractor, physical therapist can look at that and help break some adhesions if there is, do some adjustments in the area, get the proper movement. And look at, again, your holistic posture, and give you an opportunity to really optimize that. So that's obviously from a physical structural perspective. And then, obviously we want to look at nutrition. We want to look at, kind of environment you're putting on inside of your body. So if you're eating a lot of sugars, processed foods, refined oils, that's going to create higher levels of inflammation in your system. And with osteoarthritis, we often see things like insulin resistance. We see low stomach acid levels is really common, because, you need the stomach acid to be able to absorb key nutrients, things like calcium, magnesium, zinc, that are all key for keeping inflammation under control, for good joint health. And if we're not producing enough stomach acid because possibly a gut infection, or we're under stress, we're not eating the right foods, then we are not going to be able to absorb some of those key minerals and nutrients, amino acids as well. And so that could be, a significant problem. So we definitely have to look at diet, as well as movement, and try to do our best to get the blood sugar stable. So I always recommend, my staple things are 30 to 40 plus grams of protein in each meal. So when you eat a meal, you should have a minimum of 30 grams of good quality protein in that meal, and possibly 40 or more grams, depending on, your activity level, your body size. That should help keep you satiated. You also want roughly about 25, 30 grams or more of fat, depending on how well you break down and absorb fat. If you have gallbladder problems, maybe a little bit less, like 20, 25 grams. For most people, though, they do pretty good with about 30 grams of healthy fats in a meal. And that will provide, along with the protein, more satiety and more blood sugar stability. So you want to definitely be doing that and trying to obviously eat, a very good real foods based diet. So those are kind of the first two things I start thinking about when it comes to osteoarthritis. What's coming to your mind there, Hampton?
Yeah, that is a great, a whole lot, just backing up just a little bit on the structural standpoint. I also think, just movement in general, depending on your limitations, and even just like a recumbent bike or biking itself is a really great low impact way to stimulate oxygenation in the tissues and not maybe irritate the wear and tear you may have. I think that's another easy thing to do. And again, that's going to tie right into blood sugar stabilization as well. Getting in actual, physical movement, that's helpful. But yeah, a few things that I think about too is hydration, right? All the cells, are filled with water. We're primarily water, and all of the synovial joint fluid, everything. We need adequate hydration. And I know you touched on that with minerals. So I second that with just make sure we're getting in minerals. And I just think of doing super hydrating, tonics with, apple cider vinegar, lemon, sea salt, like we talk about all the time. Put some magnesium in there, magnesium glycinate. You can get liquid mineral drops, and doing those at least 2 times a day, maybe 16 to 20 ounces with all of those, really deep, rich, mineralizing additions would be super helpful. And I think about even doing a periodic, even something like a 3 to 5 day a bone broth fast, where you're going to be super hydrating, keep those hydration tonics in, but then you're going to be drinking lots of bone broth and getting in the collagen, the glycine, the proline, those amino acids that are great for the structural integrity of the collagen material. But then you're going to be getting glucosamine and chondroitin, again, anti-inflammatory, very good like sulfur compounds in there for just overall building up and supporting the joints. And then you're going to get lots of minerals again. So those are some things I think about. And then red light. I think red light is really awesome for structural and tissue inflammation, and it's near infrared specifically. Its ability to penetrate into that skin, the dermis. And I've used it personally on like some knee injuries, ankle issues, 20 minutes a day. And it really does stimulate those regenerative properties within the mitochondrial, in the cell. And without getting too technical, it just does a whole lot to really stimulate that, regrowth process and repair and renewal that the body's already trying to do. It just helps, expedite that. And you think about in nature, an animal that gets sick, what does it do? It's fasting, it's drinking water, and trying to get in the sun. So simple principles, but near infrared, if you can do that, would be awesome. What else? Epsom salt baths. Those are great for all muscular aches. You're getting, again, some good quality sulfur, magnesium, transdermally. It's really, really good for the nervous system, relaxing. So all these things are stacking to just help the regenerative effect that we're going for, as opposed to just like, you even mentioned in the question, little boys that just waiting and doing nothing. So these are all very powerful things when you stack them together, to really give the body the best chance at staving off that last resort of surgery. So, and then systemic enzymes, I can't forget those. I love systemic enzymes. I think those are super powerful. They're really easy, and you take them on empty stomach, and they just, like Pac-Man going in and chewing up inflammatory proteins and complexes for you. So I think those are my top 5 or 4, however many I said. I think those would be great additions that you could consider.
Yeah, I second that. It's just some great strategies. And then some additional things would be eating more wild-caught salmon, for example, getting more omega-3 fats. Omega-3 fats have been shown to reduce joint inflammation and help support joint capsule health. So omega-3 fats, wild-caught fish, sardines, obviously using a purified fish oil that's, or a krill oil or something like that that's got a lot of these omega-3 fats in it. So that can be really helpful. Also using certain herbs like curcumin. In fact, using a curcumin or a fermented turmeric or something like that supplement, and getting it especially if you're in a lot of pain, you really want to shut down inflammatory pathways. Standard dose is usually like 500 milligrams once or twice a day. But to really shut down some of these inflammatory pathways, you actually have to do a mega dose. So you want to do somewhere around 3 to 4 grams, right? So 500 milligrams is kind of what you're typically going to find in a capsule or in a standard dose when you're looking at a supplement. So 3 to 4 grams, quite a bit. You take that with meals, and that can really powerfully downregulate inflammation. And usually you do that for like a week or two, and then you can oftentimes start to reduce that dosage because you've built up some momentum in shutting down some of those inflammatory pathways. So that can be really, really helpful. Curcumin, ginger is another good one. And a lot of times those synergize. You'll see a lot of supplements that actually have turmeric and ginger together because of the synergistic effect there that those have with it. So those would be a couple additional things. I know you had mentioned recumbent bike. I think that's a great idea. Some sort of low intensity or low impact, right? So the impact, like running on a treadmill or something like that, will overstress the joint if it's already, if it's already damaged, it's already trauma and injury in there, and a lot of inflammation. So low impact movements are super key. So the movement, again, pumping fluid and nutrition in there, and then, just not stressing the joint. So I think that's all super, super key. CBD, a lot of people have also had success using CBD as well for joint pain and osteoarthritis. So that's another thing to consider. But yeah, I think those would be some great strategies.